My gosh.
Oh, hamstring. Up. Sniper, take the other picture.
Yeah, I mean, that's how you can formulate opinions without having true facts.
I'm telling you, think about it logically for just a second.
Dear Reds fans, welcome back to the Zebra Zillionaires. It was a tough one yesterday.
Live from Chatterbox Sports Studios, it's Off the Bench with Thom Brennaman.
We're back. We're back. Maybe better than ever. Maybe not. I don't know, but a pleasant, good Tuesday morning to you. I'm Trace Fowler, and this is Off the Bench presented by United Dairy Farmers. The MLB Playoffs begin today, and one might think that would be the biggest story in the sport, but that was until Trevor Bauer released a 3-minute and 51-second story that basically told his side. Considering the video has 40.4 million views and counting, I'd venture to guess that you've seen it. However, one might ask, why in the hell are that many people watching a Trevor Bauer video? And I think the answer is relatively pretty straightforward. Trevor Bauer is a controversial figure. Rightfully so, I might add. Some disdain for Trevor began back in 2019. He released statements to Sports Illustrated's Ben Ryder saying, and I quote, "I have 3 rules when discussing about dating women. 1, no feelings. As soon as I sense you're developing feelings, I'm going to cut you off because I'm not interested in a relationship and I'm emotionally unavailable. 2, no social media posts about me while we're together because private life stays private. And 3, I sleep with other people. I'm going to continue to sleep with other people, and if you're not okay with that, we won't sleep together, and that's perfectly fine. We can just be perfectly polite, platonic friends." I imagine if I was married at this point, I would be a very bad husband. Now, Trevor Bauer said those things back in 2019 when he was 28 years old, and that ruffled many's feathers, I would want to understand. Certainly, many will find discomfort in that, and like I said, rightfully so. You add in the fact that he's been very emotional on the field. He once launched a baseball over the center field fence when Terry Francona asked for the ball. And it clearly stated that Trevor Bauer might have some immaturity. However, immaturity and criminality aren't the same exact thing. They don't go hand in hand. And it almost felt as soon as Trevor was accused of his sexual misconduct and abuse, all those that didn't like Trevor, they decided to want to dunk on him. The court of public opinion swarmed. Major League Baseball then banned Trevor Bauer. Again, the public then ridiculed him once more, assuming that Major League Baseball certainly was in the right. And he, all the time, maintained that he was completely innocent. Trevor's taken a liking to documenting his life, has a successful YouTube channel where he goes behind the scenes, shares glimpses of his opinions on certain things, and also just behind the scenes of his day-to-day job, that is being a Major League Baseball player. And I'm sure the Major League Baseball headquarters were not really big fans of that. It's hard to control a narrative in a clubhouse, and certainly they didn't want their reputation in the hands of Trevor Bauer, certainly considering the previous comments he's made. Accusations came out. Trevor Bauer then suspended and unpaid for 2 years. That forced him to pitch in Japan. Despite early struggles, he did post a 10-4 record with a 2.7 ERA, 130 strikeouts to 33 walks. That's pretty good for many that said that he had a horrible season and was pretty bad. You add in the fact that if you're into advanced analytics, something Bauer has been steadfast in throughout his entire career. Last season's Bauer's spin rates were the best that he's ever had in his entire career, and that in career, might I add, also included a stop in Cincinnati where he won a Cy Young. Now, everything I just said was a factual statement about the situation that happened with Trevor Bauer. Many probably are maybe disgusted by that. Many might think that what I've said is maybe an inaccuracy or those things, but genuinely my goal right there was to lay out the facts of what actually happened. Do I seem a little disdained about the situation? Maybe so. And it's more about just society as a whole, but that's here nor there. This is a sports show, and we'll keep it at that. The thing that I get confused about is, on one hand, we want to ostracize Bauer, but then a week ago, we were thrilled to death that Marcell Ozuna hit a 3-0 pitch over the fence to tie the game against the Cubs. We all rejoiced. We all were fired up. We are all excited. You add in also the idea that people are screaming for an opportunity to bring Aroldis Chapman back. Let's get him back in the bullpen. He can help the Reds win. What's the difference between Ozuna, Chapman, and Bauer? Is it just the coverage? Is it just the story that was told in the media? That's the question I ask. Now, let me be very clear of what I'm trying to say here. I am not suggesting for a second that you should go to bat for anyone that is accused of a crime. I'm a believer in justice. Injustice. If you do something wrong, you pay a price for it. If you're accused of something that you didn't do, you get an opportunity to see yourself through it before people jump ship and assume that you did whatever it is that they are accusing you of. Is it okay just to suggest that at some point we allow the justice system in our country to do its job and at least showcase the evidence throughout the case, factual evidence that comes through the court before we make an opinion? Because so far, the court of a public opinion has not been all that factual. Now, it'd be one thing if this was the first time that this has ever happened. But might I remind you, Duke lacrosse. If you'd like to watch it, there's a 30 for 30 on it. Sean Oakman. If you don't remember Sean Oakman, he was a Baylor football player. Was set to get drafted in the NFL, got accused, later came out, none of it was true, was acquitted, never got a chance to play in the NFL. Matt Ariza. Bills punter was drafted, came out, none of it was true. All I ask is not, again, to try to defend people that do bad things. It's just a matter of jumping to conclusions. It's exactly why I've sat here and I'm going to wait and continue to wait on all of the information that is Wander Franco. What's the main argument that I hear about people talking about Wander Franco and why he's guilty right now? It's because Major League Baseball suspended him. They must have something on him. Major League Baseball must know something that none of us know. Oh, really? Major League Baseball. The same one that suspended somebody for 2 years unpaid? I just hope it serves as a lesson, if anything else. Our ancestors built a system, a judicial system in our country that has stood the test of time for a reason. And I'd just like for it to continue to do its job, and we all trust in that judicial system. And if we didn't trust in it, I'd like to think we would be able to vote itself out. All right, moving on. Major League Baseball. They do have 4 games today that are called the postseason. The Rangers, they travel to the dump that is Tropicana Field. Jordan Montgomery versus Tyler Glasnow. Tampa is favored at -150. That first pitch is at 3:08. The Blue Jays, they travel to Minnesota. Twins, they have lost 18 consecutive playoff games. I'll say that again. The Twins have lost 18 consecutive playoff games. They look to Pablo Lopez to snap the streak against Kevin Gasma. He's going for the Blue Jays. The Twins are favored slightly at -110. I don't know if that would make me feel a whole lot better if I was a Twins fan. That first pitch is at 4:38. Diamondbacks, they head to American Family Field to take on the Brew Crew. Brandon Pfaadt versus Corbin Burns. First pitch, 7:08. Brewers are a -185 favorite. And then you have the nightcap at 8:08 first pitch. That will be the Marlins v. the Phillies. Philadelphia will send Zach Wheeler against the Marlins. Jesus Luzardo. Phillies favored at -165. Kyle Kasky will join the show at 10:30. We'll get into Zac Taylor's comments at his presser just yesterday. Thom Brennaman will be on the show tomorrow, and he will be back right here in the saddle on Monday. Now, I see that many of you may disagree with what I had said at the top of the show, but realistically speaking, I don't know if there was a whole lot of opinionated stuff in there. Perhaps there was, perhaps there wasn't. You guys, we don't need to spend a ton of time on this because obviously it's not in the realm of theoretical, what would I call it, traditional sports talk. But the thing is this, we do a sports talk show every single day. And maybe I'm overselling it. Maybe I'm wrong on this. And I'll let the two of these guys, and certainly Elliot, maybe he's seen it, and Casey, if he has something to say about it, I don't know. But my point is that it is without question, in my opinion, the biggest story that happened yesterday in sports. I feel like it would be a little bit of an injustice to not even bring it up and have somewhat of a discussion about the video that we saw.
Yeah, I when all this came out, I was warped. My mind was warped by what I heard on TV and what I saw. I was first on the bandwagon that Trevor Bauer is probably not a great guy. I found it strange that none of his teammates, none of former coaches, nobody really, not that I saw at least, came out and was like, no way this is true, no way, we know Trevor. So I was like, you know what, he's probably a bad teammate, he's probably a bad guy, yada, yada, yada. Yesterday he released it, and it turns out he was 100% innocent. I don't know why the MLB did this. I think there was evidence, clearly, Trevor Bauer had evidence that he was in the right. So if he had that evidence, I don't know why the MLB continued to blackball him. But that's the state of sports. That's the state of society today. I think if I were an MLB team, I would be calling Rachel Luba, who is Trevor Bauer's agent. I'd be calling her right now. And getting him back in the league. I don't know. I think he has a right. I don't know if he has a right, I guess, does he have a right to sue the MLB?
He does, but at the same time, that's what people in the chat are suggesting, or people, that from the outside suggesting. My only point back to that would be if you're trying to get back in any kind of shape to be able to play in Major League Baseball, do you really want to sue the league in which you're trying to come back to? Probably not. I don't know. The thing that's crazy to me, and again, I let you continue your point here, is that I don't really think this was about money, to be honest. With Trevor. I mean, there really was never a point as to why you would do it for money, because the woman that he was accusing or suing didn't have money to really pay him. So I think he was just seeking the ability to be able to get the information that would allow him to do the video that he did yesterday, to be honest.
The most important part of what I took away yesterday, I thought that he had paid her off. And again, that was just from what I thought. I didn't know anything. He did not pay her off. She had no merit and nothing that she said. It was almost seemed like, again, this is an opinion that may or may not be true, but she seemed psychotic, if I'm going to be honest with you. It was a premeditated thing that she was trying to do to Trevor Bauer, and there was evidence that he laid out that defended that point. But it's strange, man. I mean, these are the times we live in. It truly is innocent until proven guilty, or guilty until proven innocent. So if you're going to be guilty until proven innocent, which is not how this works in America, it's a tough place to be, especially if you're a celebrity where anybody can really just say you did anything and then people just believe you. So that's a tough place to be. If I'm the Reds, if I'm anybody right now, I call Trevor Bauer and I ask him to be a part of the team, part of their team. Still is good stuff.
Yeah, it's not an easy subject to discuss or talk about, so I'm not here to suggest that anyway. You could decline to comment or anything. I just don't want there to be like Trey says a bunch of stuff, and I don't give the two of you at least an opportunity to say something. It's not that you have to. It doesn't mean that you should. I'm just suggesting that I don't want it to be perceived in the room that Trey says a bunch of opinionated stuff in a way in which I tried to be as apprehensive as I possibly could to share opinions on how I felt. I just wanted to lay out the facts that this is the biggest story in sports yesterday. We do a sports talk show every day. It would be ridiculous not to at least say something about it.
It was interesting yesterday to see pretty much everybody, because Trey sent out a tweet earlier this year, and it was give him a call or something along that line. It was a picture of Trevor Bauer. He said give him a call. And basically his mentions were flooded with just people making fun of him, saying, oh, Trevor Bauer's this, Trevor Bauer's that. All those same people yesterday came out and was like, Trevor Bauer's a hero. What he went through is terrible, and we were all wrong. So it is interesting. It is funny a little bit in that sense, but the MLB has to do a better job. Wander Franco is dealing with a situation. I'm praying he didn't do the things he did. If he didn't, this would be just another thing in the MLB's checklist of wronging players. But again, as of right now, he's under investigation. I'm not going to say anything more about that, but it's crazy that, like Marcell Ozuna, what he did was on camera in front of a police officer. He's still playing baseball.
Right.
Aroldis Chapman, what he did was, again, proven. There's no allegation. He did it. Still in the league. Trevor Bauer, there was not one case against him, really, other than the word of somebody else. Out of the league 2 years, never to return. Banished. And part of me does believe that some of it has to do with the YouTube stuff. He was basically profiting off the MLB, just like the MLB profits off him. MLB probably didn't like it too much. He said, you know what? You're gone. I do think that has something to do with it. Maybe not all the way, but has at least a little bit. But again, my thing was, I don't know why nobody spoke up for him. I would have thought somebody would have spoken up for him. Maybe they did, and I just didn't listen or didn't hear about it. But from the beginning of this, it never really seemed like his teammates came out and supported him. And that was always my thing, because it seemed like if Freddie Freeman had something like this come up, and it's like everybody would show up for Freddie Freeman. I think Trevor Bauer might be a head case a little bit. I still think that's true. I still think he's a little bit of a diva. Maybe teammates don't like him. I don't know. Again, I'm not going to speculate on speculation. So that's all I have to say. But good for Trevor. I'm glad his name is cleared, and hopefully he can get back in the league soon.
Yeah, I don't have much to say other than I do believe that our judicial system should be innocent and proven guilty. And it's just not been like that for many cases. It's unfortunate that happens. And, you listed some of the cases, some of the more recent ones as of late. Unfortunately, I don't believe that we'll ever get to a point where it's a perfect system, right? Like, we're going to have cases from now until the end of America or the end of this judicial system the way it is now, to where we're going to have some cases slip through the cracks and a guy's going to get ostracized or a woman will be ostracized and completely excommunicated from whatever work, society. It's unfortunate. I mean, it's if all of this ends up being that he is truly innocent, it will be a shame. But I just don't know how you prevent that. Like, there's no.
And by the way, I do think people who lay allegations against others, especially people who have nothing to lose, essentially laying these allegations against people who do have something to lose, and they were complete lies the whole time, they should face repercussions. People like that should be facing jail time. It happened with you said before Okafor for Baylor, against the punter Matariza. These are two guys who lost not only their future, they lost whatever they had now. They lost their whole lives essentially because of lies, and that's a tough place to be. I think anybody who does that should be facing prison time.
Yeah, because there's not really a repercussion for those that want to try to find a way to get that bag, as it was stated in the report. And the only thing that I would say, and I see some comments about saying that, Trevor Bauer is not a clubhouse guy and things of that nature. Has any teammates ever come out and said they don't like Trevor Bauer? Don't like him? I know that you're going to say that no one's came out and supported him. What do you want them to do? You think that guys on the Dodgers are going to come out and support Trevor Bauer when he has all these accusations? You think that somebody at the Reds are going to come out into the public and say, yeah, I love Trevor here? Meanwhile, he's got all these accusations, and in the court of public opinion on Trevor Bauer is at an all-time low. And you know what? I'm not suggesting for a second that there are 3 other accusations out there. It could come out that perhaps he did something wrong. This is not even about Trevor Bauer as much as it is about just stop assuming everything. And the other thing is sit here and say, yeah, that the clubhouse and the Reds locker room is awesome and this, that, and the other. And you know what? I agree. Yeah, it appeared that was the case. But I hate to say this, but I have to do it. What did it ultimately win? What did you ultimately do? I mean, yeah, you overachieved. I'm not downplaying the season that the Reds had. It was unbelievable. But are you going to convince me that if they had Trevor Bauer and won 10 more games, or call it 5 more games, and they made the postseason, that it would have been a bad thing because somehow Trevor Bauer is disliked by his teammates? I just don't buy into the notion that Trevor Bauer is disliked by his teammates. I don't. Now, maybe there's a couple that don't like him, but do you really think that every single player in the clubhouse actually all love each other? Maybe, but probably not. They're adults. They show up. They got a job to do. It's a professional franchise.
I don't know how much a good you said that the good clubhouse didn't equate to anything this season for the Reds. I think it gives you a better opportunity to succeed. And I'm not saying it correlates to wins, but a bad clubhouse atmosphere correlates to whatever the hell happened in San Diego. That's just a fact. There was a lot of egos. There's a lot of superstars in that room. It didn't mesh. It didn't work. And you can sit here and say that, they all played okay and blah, blah, blah. Their run differential was great. But at the end of the day, it didn't work for the Padres this year. And I do think it does matter. Having a good clubhouse atmosphere matters in that sense. Now, I never saw anybody come up and be like, because usually when these things happen, at least like a friend will be like, I can attest to Trevor's character. I don't know about these allegations, but I can attest to his character. I know Trevor, and from what I've known, blah, 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 blah. I didn't see any teammate do that. And that I found strange. Rachel Luba did it. That's his agent who he pays. But I didn't see a whole lot of other teammates do that for him. And I could be wrong, and maybe it happened so long ago I just don't remember it. But to me, it never seemed like Trevor Bauer was a big clubhouse guy. And he's kind of a weirdo a little bit. I think he is. I think
he's different.
So I think that was stated. But the thing I never understood is why nobody had ever attested to his character. Nobody ever came up for it. And again, they might have.
They are now.
They are now. Of course, they are now. And like Trey said, I lost my point just then. That sucks. That's a tough place to be.
No, you were basically saying that his teammates didn't stick up for him, and that you were wondering why no one did. And I was just pointing out the fact that there's probably a good reason as to why you wouldn't. I mean, with as much as people want to say they have conviction, as much as people want to say they'll step outside the box, they'll make that risky decision for their friend. I'll tell you, there's a guy that sits at this very seat on Monday that found out the hard way. There's a lot of friends in life that don't stick up for you when times get tough because they don't want to lose their prestigious spot in the world. Simple as that. It's as simple as that. There's not a lot of people that step outside the box and risk their careers for the backs of just showing up and saying something nice about somebody else.
And that was what I was going to say. I was going to say that they had something to lose, yada yada yada. But it's Trevor Bauer. I again, if this is the only thing if this was the only allegation, which it appears to be, I hope he comes back in the league, and I hope he shoves it up the MLB's ass, because right now he has to come back and dominate the league and just basically make the MLB regret everything they've done.
I don't even know if it's, and that's the thing that's crazy. Is like I get the sentiment of that. It's just that I just want, from the franchise that I love, I certainly want there to be moral standards down there, but I don't want them to feel like they have to be the morale police. Let the justice system do its job. If, for instance, Ozuna's in a spot where, again, he clearly did something wrong, I completely understand that. But for those that want to sit here and say that, well, he's a bad teammate by a clubhouse, he won a Cy Young for your franchise. It's the same people that sitting here wanted to scream and yell at the moon about Joe Mixon. They wanted to tell you how bad of a person he was, get him off the team. And the next thing you know, guess what? What happened with the Joe Mixon case? Got thrown out the window. Why? Because there wasn't a shred of evidence about any of it. Now you're all cheering him on Sundays to run for 5 yards a game. That's my main problem. Is that at some point, can we just let the thing that this country is founded upon on how to go about the legal matters in this country do its job before we just rush to decisions? That's literally my main point to the whole thing. And if that 3-minute and 40-second video doesn't show you why you might want to reserve judgment on things, then I don't know what would. Now, I know this is a hard segue because, ultimately, I know Kyle Caskey could give maybe a rat's tail about the whole subject or something along those lines. He cares more about just football and how to win games. Kyle, I think it begs the question, how in the world, one, my apologies for the hard segue there, but two, the Bengals find themselves in a tough spot, Kyle. I don't know what you watched that game as with the rest of us on Sunday. I guess we'll start off with just your overall, again, impressions of what you saw and maybe the concerns that you have.
Well, number one, I'm going to say something nice about you. I think you're one of the best hosts out there, and I believe that, if there's talking trash about you, then, I got your back. So throw that out there. And Joe Mixon, hey, I'm the one who stood on the table for that kid back when in the draft, and I know what that kid's about, and I think he got all that stuff that went on with him, man. That people got to put that behind it, because he's doing everything he can to be a model citizen and a great player for that team. But moving on to what I saw on Sunday, I saw a team that got out physicaled, basically just got outplayed in every phase. And you got a team in Tennessee that hadn't been able to get Derrick Henry running the ball, and all of a sudden he runs for whatever he ran for, 122 yards and a 5.5 yard clip. And it just the defense didn't look like they were as physical as they've been. They were out of position at times on against some of the deeper throws, and really that double pass they threw with Hopkins should have been a touchdown too. Hopkins catches that ball 9 out of 10 times, and then up front, it's just the physicality. They missed some tackles that they don't usually miss, and Derrick Henry was just kind of doing what Derrick Henry does. Getting to the offense, people keep talking about the balls not being pushed down the field. Ace is getting upset about it, and rightly so. He wants the ball. The problem is, if you're running anything deeper than probably 15, 20 yards, there's not a whole lot of time to get it off. Go watch the times he's getting hit. So in tonight's show, I've got it segmented up into sacks and quarterback hits and hurries, and a lot of those quarterback hits and hurries are on deeper throws. They're trying to get the ball deeper, and it's just there's a miscommunication up front. Somebody, a chip block doesn't get executed the way it should, and Orlando Brown is setting for the chip. It's just some miscommunication issues up front, and not necessarily just getting physically beaten. There was a couple of them right guard was getting. I believe Alex Cappa he got turned around a couple times, and it's just there's some things that they need to do to clean up and find a way to get the ball deeper. The one that Joe Burrow got hit on when the guy came around the edge, and that was just a hug blitz. That guy was hugging the back. That was an 8-man max protection where he got hit on, and they were trying to throw a 2-man route deeper, and that's 8-man protection, and he still got hit. So those are some things they got to clean up. And we could put it all on Joe Burrow's back, and I'm sure that's what everybody's trying to do. But the deep shots, he's got to have time. I mean, it doesn't matter who's throwing the ball.
Yeah, Kyle, you have obviously some clips that you had shared here. First one that we're going to bring up was, I believe it was in the first quarter maybe. Nonetheless, Casey's going to put it up. We'll let you walk through. It was the second
Yep.
quarter. Score was 10-3 with 4:29 left. We'll let you kind of walk through what you've seen here.
All right. So as you're looking here, really, this is just a duo. I mean, it's really just a duo inside zone play. But if you watch how many people missed the tackle here right from the end zone. Just count how many people. This is not normal defense that you see from this defense. But when you're running just a simple, just downhill run play, and you let a guy like Derrick Henry get loose like that. Again, that's what I'm talking about. There's the times that they're making tackles normally in these games, they weren't making those tackles in these games. And again, that they're in a bear front right here, which means they've got all the gaps covered. You have a run through linebacker. You missed at the linebacker level. You missed at the safety level. And I get it. Derrick Henry's a big guy. Here's the thing about Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry's a running back where it not only takes you fully wrapping him up and getting into his body because he could stiff arm you, but it takes usually another person to come help you take him down. And right now, when you're trying to kind of lunge at these guys, it's hard. It doesn't matter who you are on defense, but they just got to be when you play a guy like that, it's one of those things during the week you say, here's how we're going to handle wrapping this guy up, and they just didn't get it done. And that's the worst of the group, right? I mean, that's the worst of the clips right there if you look at it, but there were some other ones that he had the same kind of run on.
Sticking on the defense really quickly before we get to the next clip, you had shared with me during the game that you felt like the Bengals were kind of getting outside of what they've always done, or they were doing some things that they didn't need to do. You felt like perhaps they might have been blitzing a little more often than they should have. Your overall assessment just on kind of what transpired there. And I guess even when you're on the sidelines, does the game speed up from time to time? Does it kind of get out of sorts where you had a little bit of a game plan going in, things didn't start going the right way? And I don't want to make it sound like you overreact, but in a way, does that happen on the sideline? Do you think that that's a possibility of what happened on Sunday against the Titans?
It's possible. I think what happens too, people always look at the offense of when you get down and then all of a sudden you're in 2-minute mode and you're throwing the ball and everything. Defenses kind of get the same way. So if you're down 24-3 like they were, and for most of the second half, you kind of get aggressive because you feel like, hey, we need to do something to get this ball back. We need to sack the quarterback. We need to, I just felt like there were some things that they were just trying too hard. And it's one of those things where you just play your defense, get the stop, get the ball back to the offense. And look, really, as bad as it seems right now, the Bengals can still explode at any point when it comes on offense. I mean, it can happen. But the problem is, I think the defense at times was just, they were not that they were blitzing necessarily too much. It was just kind of like, just play your defense and get the stops. And I didn't feel like they were trying to do that. I felt like they were almost in 2-minute mode on defense. That's where that comment came from.
Fair enough. All right, the next clip, we are in the first quarter, 6:26. It's a 2nd and 2. Bengals are up 3-0. We'll let you walk you through what you've seen here.
Y'all can screenshot that right there. They had the lead. All right, so this is a pretty cool play, actually. This is the one I was talking about just a minute ago. So what they're going to do, they're toss the ball to Derrick Henry. He's going to actually throw it backwards, so it's a lateral, and then he's going to throw this deep. And, I mean, it's kind of hard to see from that angle, but from the backside angle, if I don't know, Casey, if you can pause this, like right when a ball hits Hopkins' hands, but this ball is a very well thrown ball. And I'd say the thing that I'm getting at with the Bengals defense is you just got to understand that, yeah, you got two guys on him, but he's going to go. And that's a tough play. But if it's your job to be in coverage, be in deep coverage, or if that I'd have to go back and look at what the exact coverage is. But if you're in coverage on that, it's DeAndre Hopkins, screw the run. I mean, you got to go cover your guy. And that's a play. We actually scored on that exact play when I was in Detroit. Matthew Stafford threw a touchdown to Kenny Galladay on the exact same play, and it was just literally called double pass. I mean, sometimes just people look too far into it, but it's a play that if you've got the run game going, you've got some things going, you can toss that ball, and once you toss that ball, everybody's running up because obviously they think it's a run. It's Derrick Henry, and all of a sudden he turns around and throws it. Now, not only did he do that, I didn't send y'all the clip, but he throws a touchdown on the goal line, and everybody sells out to. And they're in goal line personnel, the Bengals are, and they're selling out to stop the run because they go Wildcat. And actually, it's crazy because they called a timeout before that. They lined up in the same formation. They called a timeout. Bengals called a timeout. Then they came out and lined up in the exact same formation again. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken on the way that defense is set up, the D lineman who's got his hand on the ground is actually in coverage on that tight end, and the outside rusher was rushing outside, and they switch off right there. And They do it both ways, but on that one they had the outside rusher rushing again, that tight end that did the little pop pass, and I guess they had a beat on however they were doing it, and that's why that guy was so wide open, just because he just got dropped in coverage on the backside because everybody was selling out to play run.
Well, the Bengals find themselves in a situation that they've not been in this spot before, obviously, but they've been in some adversity, certainly at the beginning of seasons, the last couple seasons, and they find themselves a way to dig themselves out. Mm-hmm. This is a tough question for you. I don't know if there's really one answer, to be honest, but maybe if there's a way for you to succinctly say it. If there was something specific that you felt like this is the thing that really the Bengals need to focus on and try to get going to get them back on track, that answer is what to you?
It's going to come down to, and I'm not just saying this because of Mixon, but they've got to, if they can get the run game going like they've done. If you go watch the run game, it's going. They need to start play action and off of that run game again. That's where they kind of. If you look back to the McVay offense, where Zac came from, it's known as a wide zone, run it and then play action off of it. Naked off of it. And I get it. Burrow is having a hard time moving around. Burrow can naked. I promise you, he can do it. He can roll out of the pocket and he can play action. Play action is just taking a couple, just like you would drop back in your normal drop backs. But I think they got to find a way. If they want to run out of the gun, that's fine. You can still play action out of the gun, just like you play action from under center. It's not as heavy of a play action, but again, use those type of protections, and maybe they don't feel comfortable with the protection of a play action protection, because sometimes in play action protections you're kind of jumping the D lineman trying to sell run, and it does get sometimes you can get up and under it a little bit, kind of like Aaron Donald was doing last week. But again, I think if they can get the play action game going in the pass game, that'll help out a ton, because they're doing a good job of getting the Chase and Boyd and those guys the ball and letting them run, because Chase had a couple of good just short catches and then turned them into 17-yard gains, and Boyd does the same thing. But if they want to start getting those shots downfield, they got to find a way to change the protections up with play actions and get him on the move a little bit. Maybe even I know it's called sprint out, but a guy like that, I mean, if he can run around and stand up and do what he's doing, he can roll out of the pocket to the right or the left. And, just depending on how they feel about him planning and throwing to his left, that's different. Maybe you just do it to the right. I know there's tendencies there, but for it. And I think that's where the offense has got to go. Defensively, I just think, get back to what Lou Anarumo does. Get them in third and 6+ situations. That first and second down defense has got to be great. Get them into those third and longer situations so you can bring out those exotic blitzes that he's known for. And right now it's they're not really getting them in those situations. But if they can just get back to first and second down defense, and then again, like I said, play action and get the run game going, because all the other stuff's going to be there. Y'all know that. The drop backs are going to be there. The quick game's going to be there. I don't understand really why the screen game is so bad right now, but that would help. But again, I mean, when you're bringing more pressure, because Burrow's getting more pressure right now because they know he can't move real well, and sometimes it's harder to throw those. You like to throw screens into pressure, but you still got to get them off, and I think that's probably where they're having the issues.
Well, for somebody that obviously you had mentioned comes from a system that relies a little bit on play action and being under center is something that obviously Joe Burrow at this point really hasn't done because of what we assume to be his health. And I guess the final question I'll ask for you, and maybe this is one of those things, whatever stays in the locker room stays in the locker room type things, but it seems wild that yesterday during Zac Taylor's pressers, he kind of just acted as if everything was fine, that really the playbook was not limited, that Joe Burrow was, for the most part, pretty much healthy enough to be able to utilize the entire playbook. Yet we don't see him under center. We do not see him doing play actions all that often. And more times than not, the ball's coming out very, very quickly. Now, one might think and venture to believe that that's maybe because of the blitzes and the fact that they don't have a lot of time. But from an outsider, or obviously all of us, what we call, dumb fans to a certain extent, it just appears like there is a very distinct difference between what the traditional offense has been for the Cincinnati Bengals and what we've seen the last few weeks. Is there, and I guess this is the question that I'm asking, is there a notion to where you just don't tell the truth at most of those pressers? Is that just what you do? And is that just a part of it, to be honest?
Yeah, I think there is something to it. It's called coach speak, and I think everybody knows what we're talking about. And there's times you don't want to give away what you're doing. There's times you don't want to give away your health of your players. And there's times where it's just like, guys, it's, I'm here, I'm going to answer questions. I don't have to answer everything the way you want it answered. And I can respect that. I do know that there's a lot of coaches that are different, that kind of speak more truth during the media and they kind of talk to their team through the media. I feel like a culture there of where they can say what they need to say behind the scenes and not worry about getting things out in the media. Because there hadn't been a whole lot of people, like I know Joe Mixon said some things in the past, and I know Chase has kind of complained about not getting deep balls, but that's just frustration after games. But I know I wouldn't get too upset about it, but I do agree with you, though. There is something to not having the full playbook right now. Now, does that mean they can't do it? No, it's like I told you, but he may feel like Joe Burrow just may feel more comfortable in the gun. Go back to looking at his college. I don't think he ever went under center in college. And then they came into the league and, kind of forced him under center a little bit. And then the next thing you know is like the whole offense is in the gun. And I can attest to that from working with some of the quarterbacks I've worked with and that are younger. They haven't taken under center snaps in their entire life. And to ask them to play action from under center and get their eyes back up and try to find the routes, a lot of these younger guys can't do it. Now, can they be taught to do it? Sure. But a lot of times it's if that's what you're comfortable with and you're really good at it, like Burrow is, you just kind of you adapt your system to what he's doing. And I think that's more reason why they're in gun than anything. And then talking about, y'all being dumb fans, maybe Reed, I don't know, but the rest of you guys seem like, know what you're talking about.
I think it's being a little too nice. Unfortunately, Reed is he got voted to get kicked out for a week. Now that was his his ploy when he had to go do some other work around Chatterbox. But nonetheless, Reed's not here to defend himself. But ultimately,
that's okay. That's why I know when to pick my fights.
That's good. Well, you picked a perfect time for it. There's no doubt about it. All right, you have a show tonight at 9:00. You obviously run through all the different types of things that you see the week prior. Sometimes you venture into the next week. Any teasers, anything that you want to kind of share before we let you go?
Yeah, I was just I've been kind of going in game order the last few weeks, but this week I'm putting them more into groupings, and I'm going to talk about the receivers making plays, and I know they're not getting the deep balls, but how they're making plays. I'm going to talk about Mixon. Crazy thing is, I've got more clips of Mixon doing really good things than I do of the receivers right now, and it's not I don't think it's the receivers' fault, it's just the flow of the game. And then I'm going to go into the sacks and hurries, but then the last thing I'm going to talk about is just Burrow not being Burrow, right? The things that, like we're talking about right now, that just aren't showing up that usually show up. Just making those quick throws, those RPO throws where usually you see him catch and turn like he's turning two. Some of that stuff is there, and you would think last year he was throwing it. And then defensively, just hitting on the missed tackles, biting on play actions, out of position things that can be, kind of fixed. Some of their stuff's just an easy fix. The offense is more of a figure out who they are right now, and that's kind of where I'm going to get into and show people it's not. I know a lot of people were talking about there was a play, it was a zero blitz, and it was a play where Chase was running a shallow route, and why didn't he throw it to the shallow? He's trying to throw it deep. I'm going to tell you all right now, if you go watch the whole play and not just the little clip that people are showing on the internet, he had no time. There was no time. He was just trying to get rid of the ball. He was trying not to get hit and get sacked. And there wasn't time to progress through anything. And people could say, well, throw it to the shallow one. I'm just going to tell you there was about, I don't know, 12 people, including the offensive guys, standing right in front of him. I don't think he saw Chase. Like, you just got to think about the line of sight at the same time. Right. People from up in the stands, oh, yeah, I see it. From TV, oh, I see it. When you're standing behind all those dudes, sometimes you just don't see things. And those guys are big, just bottom line. And, that's not an excuse for it, but that's the truth. So that's kind of what I'm going to get into tonight at 9. And, it'll be again, if people can get in the chat and ask questions, I'll gladly go on tangents if there's things people want to talk about, to do that too.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate you coming on. As always, next week when you come on, the big boss will finally be back in here. So I'm sure there'll be I'm sure there'll be some more pointed and maybe even opinionated, rightfully so, questions that you guys can have fun bantering back and forth with. But just coming on and joining us while Tom's been out, I've been very appreciative. Thank you for doing the shows on Tuesdays, and we'll try to get as many folks down there to watch that show at 9 tonight as possible.
All right, guys. Well, I appreciate y'all. Y'all have a good one.
All right. Thanks, Kyle. All right, guys. Well, here's the thing. He said something there that that it's just hard to get into the mind, obviously, of someone that actually plays the position and what they're thinking and feeling, right? We've sat here at length and discussed the health of Joe Burrow, and today's not one of those days where we're going to do it, quite frankly, again, because many of you probably are sick and tired of Trace having the same point, Elliott having the same point, and Casey having the same point. And certainly if Reed was in here, he'd probably feel the same way as he did before, and Sean would probably say the same stuff. However, when he says that Joe was concerned about getting hit, I think that's a stark difference between what Joe has done in the past versus what he is doing right now. And rightfully so. I'm not suggesting for a second that Joe should stand in there and get hit. But that's what Joe's done since he's gotten into the league. And for all intents and purposes, it's what allows him more times than not to be great, in my opinion. That extra half a second that he's willing to stand there and take a hit and deliver a ball down the field, he's done that time and time and time again for this franchise. Now, right now, maybe it's not worth it, quite frankly, to do that, because the risk of what he has in his calf, he just can't afford getting hit. And maybe, for all intents and purposes as well, I can buy into the notion that this Bengals team and front office and certainly the coaching staff and definitely Joe Burrow still feels like that if Joe can play even a little bit and play the way that he's been playing, that they still have the best chance to win. Now, whether that's the truth or not, we'll never really know until we see the opposite opportunity. However, I almost wonder if the difference in Joe Burrow is more or less, if you will, certainly psychological as much as it is physical. And maybe it's obviously probably both, Elliott and Casey. But I think that was been the point that we've all kind of hinted around. And at this point, I think we're all probably, I don't know, maybe you guys can share your opinion. I think it's safe to say that the calf certainly is a part of it. But the other concerning part a little bit too is that now Joe psychologically feels a little bit different than he has in the past when he's sitting in the pocket.
Yeah, the psychological factor is massive. I'm not going to compare myself to a professional athlete. I by no means am one, or am close to being one. But there was an incident what happened to me in 8th grade. I was playing basketball, and what ended up happening, I hit a screw on my leg, and I cut my leg open. And it required about 15 stitches, and the scar is still massive right here on my leg. But what happened was for about a year, 2 years after that, I refused to do anything hard on my right leg. I was a big skier. I used to go on the terrain park. I used to try to do rails and stuff, but I'd be afraid of landing anywhere near that, to having the same thing happen to me. I can only imagine when you're a professional athlete and that's literally your job. You're trying to stay as upright as possible. You're trying to stay as healthy as humanly possible, and aggravating that calf in any way is detrimental to your future, is detrimental to your profession. So I think that's huge in Joe Burrow's mind right now. I think that's absolutely a factor. Joe Burrow's been dealing with injuries now for, 3-4 straight seasons. So this has now become a pattern, and Joe's just trying to stay as healthy as possible. I think the only way, unfortunately, for this offense to be healed is if Joe Burrow starts acting like he's not hurt, and it's a tough ask of a player, which is why Trace does have validity in his point when he says Jake Browning is out there, he's free, there's no fear of injury, he can be whatever he want to be out there, and that's fine. I just think it is still in Joe Burrow's head somewhere where he's afraid of being hurt, he's afraid of re-aggravating another injury, being out for even longer than he was in the preseason. So it's a massive concern.
Yeah, and not to mention too, I mean, we talk about the team wanting him out there because of his contract, and I know the contract point it's been hit over and over again, but he's probably thinking the same thing too. You know, he just got paid all this money. He wants to be the leader of this team. He's been the leader of this team. He wants to show out for his guys, and everyone believes in him as the leader of this team. And if without him, that they're not going to go anywhere. So him pushing himself out there, not being 100% healthy, there's a lot of different factors to this. I think there's a lot of the mental game for Joe that he has to overcome. And there's just other things too that are, you know, I don't think he was ready, like just from a football standpoint, not just from a confidence standpoint, just from a football standpoint. I don't think he was ready to start this season. I mean, he was out almost the entire preseason. In fact, it was only like he only practiced two times, 3 times in the preseason. So, yeah, I think what we're saying is got some merit to it. I just don't know. I'm not going to sit here and act like I know it's the whole thing, like it's the whole deal, because we've seen in the past. I mean, Joe Burrow's got a mind of steel. I mean, he was sacked 9 times in a Titans playoff game and still won the ball game. Made the throws when it mattered. So, I don't know. I'm not going to speculate on it too much, but I think there is some merit to it.
Yeah, and that's the tough part when we discuss all these things is no one knows the real answer. There's no really reason to speculate on what's going on in Joe's head because ultimately it's impossible to know. It's just that it's just frustrating because certainly I come in here and certainly there's times where I try to be a little counter and a little counter argument, a little bit of a devil side, a little bit of a heel about the Bengals because ultimately if it wasn't for that, then what else is there to talk about because everybody would think everything's perfectly fine with the Cincinnati Bengals from time to time. But when I do that, I do try to do it in a way in which I think is fair. It's certainly not just me trying to be a troll, although that is something that we've done around here from time to time from a bit perspective. However, I think most of the time when we do that, you can clearly tell the difference between when we're being serious and when we're obviously just poking fun. The thing about the Bengals, in my opinion, is that they still have the opportunity to salvage the season, and I just find myself going back and forth between the notion of trying to save a season and save the validity, and again, I keep using that word, and it's a crutch word, and I'm going to get crushed for it in the chat, but saving the opportunity of what this core group of players have done for this franchise. And the last thing that I would want to do is to continue to run someone out there like Joe Burrow and have Jamar Chase get frustrated, and have Joe Burrow become, quite frankly, frustrated because he's not able to do the things that he's capable of doing. And it turns, I don't want to say it spirals out of control, but it just spirals out of control. You'd like to think that you have a head coach that obviously can hold all the things together. And Zac Taylor, for all intents and purposes right now, is probably having the biggest test he's had since he's became a head coach in the NFL. And it's kind of wild to say because this guy has been to two AFC championships in back-to-back years. He's gotten this team to a Super Bowl. For my money, he has deserved and earned the opportunity to be given at least, at the very minimum, a full season to try to figure something out. This guy's not going to get fired. We all know this. If you think he's going to get fired, then I got news for you. You're going to be sadly disappointed. He's not going anywhere, and rightfully so, by the way. But you could also, on the other hand, be critical of Zach. You can have it both ways. Fairly, I might add. I just think that many times, and Casey's alluded to this numerous times, that Zac Taylor has been the benefactor of Joe Burrow playing elite level football, and more times than not, it's been a reason as to why they've won games, and it's not been a reason because of the schematics on the offensive end. And certainly when you see the bells and whistles of a McDaniels offense, and you look around the league and you see what Shanahan's been able to do with Brock Purdy and the 49ers, and you start to ask yourself, why can't we have that? Because you know as well as I do that the Bengals' talent is just as good as those teams that we just talked about.
I think it's interesting. Zac Taylor, Trace is right, Zac Taylor's not getting fired. But I will say that Marvin Lewis kind of got this ability to skate through everything. But he made the playoffs. Marvin Lewis, I would say, backed it up. I know he didn't win playoff games, and towards the end, that's eventually why he got fired. But Zac Taylor right now, the thing about it is, even though he got us to a Super Bowl, and that's true, he got us to two back-to-back AFC championship games. So that's, in a sense, earned him not a lifetime deal, but it's earned him a long leash. If this were to continue into next year, because the expectations are so high with this team, I would expect at some point Zac Taylor to take a leave. The argument against him this entire time, and I feel like it happens every single season. It's just that the play calls are bad. He's responsible for the play calling. Stop play calling the game. And it's been a consistent issue year and year and year and year again. He's 34-40 as a head coach. He hasn't really earned it in that sense. I would say if these issues were to continue with the high expectations with Joe Burrow, arguably the second best quarterback in the NFL, at some point the Bengals would have to make a move. And in his press conference yesterday, when they asked him about Joe Burrow, him shrugging it off like it was nothing, I thought it was one of the most preposterous things. I know Casey has the clip. It's truly one of the more preposterous things I've seen. I don't know. He was acting like this question was a non-question. Here it is, Zac Taylor.
Oh, buffering. That's never happened before.
That's all right. Internet's working hard. It's trying.
Ooh. I'll just reload it. Here we go.
Sounds good.
Starting to play on this week's game against France.
Yeah. That's a strange question. Yeah.
Well, I mean, but to kind of follow up though, I mean, do you feel like he's healthy enough to
Hey. I think we might be back.
All right. Let's do a show.
Should we just start from the top?
Yeah.
Let's run the intro.
Just run it.
I got you. Oh, hamstring. Up. Sniper, take the other picture.
Yeah, I mean, that's how you can formulate opinions without having true facts.
I'm telling you, think about it logically for just a second.
Dear Reds fans,
welcome back to the Zebra Zillionaires. It was a tough one yesterday.
Live from Chatterbox Sports Studios, it's Off the Bench with Thom Brennaman.
Well. A happy, good Tuesday morning to you. This is Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. I'm Trace Fowler. And we appreciate you coming and join us on this lovely Tuesday. The fact of the matter is we don't know if the maybe the internet bill didn't get paid. Maybe they just aren't a very good internet service. Maybe both. I don't know. But the fact of the matter is we don't know how long we're going to be on the internet, so we might as well get to the most important segment of the day. Because how could you possibly go on with your life without the 11 o'clock locals? So, without further ado, let's send it over to Elliot.
Well, hey, everybody, we're back.
No free ads, but the company that wouldn't let me watch football for 2 weeks runs a bum-ass internet service. I'm shocked. I've never been more shocked, quite frankly, in my entire life. Shout out to Spectrum. No free ads, but Spectrum. I can't be more clear. Spectrum. Spectrum, you are the worst internet service provider in the nation, in the country. Your cable sucks. Your internet sucks. No free ads. I'm not going to sit here and give a free ad to Spectrum, the very worst at everything they do. The very worst. My dad and I had internet problems the other day with Spectrum, and I'm not kidding you. Listen, this is no disrespect to the Russian community, but they send over an unmarked van with 2 random Russians in it. We thought it was the mafia. I'm not kidding. They didn't have a card. They didn't have anything. Spectrum sent over 2 Russians, and they fixed our internet. Granted, did they do a good job? I don't really know. It's blacked out like 4 times in the past week since they've done it. Weather. All right, weather time. So I looked outside today, Casey. It's a beautiful day. Look at this. Oh, boom, boom. I'm behind it. Wait. Let me get in front of it. Wait, which way? Which way? There it is. Wait. There it is. There it is. All right. So in this little window, you will see. Can I see my hand? No, it's okay. It's in the front. All right. So today, high at 85, sunshine. If you look at Wednesday, high at 85, sunshine. What are you going to see on Wednesday, Casey? Thursday.
High of 85, sunshine.
Sunshine, 80. Sunshine, 80. It doesn't change. Look at this. It's all the same. And people are going to come back time and time again, and they're going to say, what's the weather today? What's the weather? I don't know what the weather is. It's the same weather, buddy. It's the same weather for the next 5 days. It's the same weather for the next week and a half. The only difference is that there might be a raindrop every once in a while. Could there be rain today? Sure, I don't give a damn. There might be rain. There might be rain Thursday. There's like a 30%. Do you have your phone, Casey? Let me see your phone. Yeah. Let's check the weather just in case you don't believe my weather, in case you're still going to come back later tonight and you're going to say, what's the weather? Well, I'll tell you what the weather is. So on Friday, there's a 40% chance of rain. That's it. Shout out to your phone, which you can do every single day. You can look at your phone every single day. Unless, of course, you're using Spectrum Internet Service, you won't be able to look at it then. There you go, Casey. Weather today, again, sunshine. Go outside. Trey said touch some grass. Why don't you go roll in it? Let's go roll in the grass today. Everybody go roll in the grass. Chip, back to you.
Well, the fact of the matter is, watching that live, the fact that they were trying to layer that whole situation live was a thing of art.
Well, why don't you send me back to me, Chip? Why don't you send me right back to me? So, Chip, this is what it looks like now. As you can see, we fixed the issue. Again, it's hard to run a company, an internet company without internet. Shout out to Spectrum. There is no free ads. I'm not giving a free ad. But if you use Spectrum, you shouldn't because they're bums. All of them, bums. All right, so let's do the weather again. Since we messed up the first time, look at this. I can reach over to Tuesday, you see it. Wednesday, you see it. Thursday, you see it. It's all the same. It doesn't change. This is the weather in Cincinnati. It might rain. It might snow. I don't care. But that's it. Chip, back to you. Let's pay some ads, actually. We got to pay some ads.
We do. You said that you should roll in grass. Some are suggesting in the chat that you should smoke it. Now,
I wouldn't condone that, but I can promise you that the people of Spectrum are right now. They're hard at work smoking grass in their offices. Respectfully to Spectrum.
You're putting Casey through the ringer over there. My man Casey's trying to get all these different things set up. Elliot starts spouting at the mouth because then the camera has to go back to him, and Casey's scrambling over there trying to figure out how in the world he can get the image in the right spot to make it look appropriate. Casey's worst enemy on this show most times, more than not, is Elliot when he gets in that corner. Let me tell you. I mean, there's nobody better. Oh, yeah, send it back to me. So, you know what I'm going to do now? I'm going to send it to Casey McAllister, the best in the game, the most exquisite ad reader there is west of the Mississippi. And the good news is we're east of the Mississippi, so we probably should say he's the best east of the Mississippi. Over to you, Casey.
Thanks, Chip. The Bengals Report is brought to you by Encore Technologies. Encore Technologies provides IT solutions for a data-centered world with a suite of services from mobile computing to desktop to data center, supporting both centralized and work-from-home computing modules to improve efficiency and
productivity. I couldn't even hold it in. Casey can't even do it.
Visit Encore.tech. The path to innovation begins here. There's a new premium alkaline water out. That's right, it's Pawnee Water. Pawnee water is made right here in Hamilton, Ohio, and it uses natural limestone filtration. Unlike the artificial processing that other brands use. The result? A healthy alkaline water. This is also known as the best tasting water in the world.
Best tasting.
Visit pawneewater.com. That's PAHHNI water.com to see where you can buy this great tasting water. And for me, it's the pH level. It's an 8. It's a solid 8. It's not a 7. It's not a 9. It's an 8. Gotta love that. Elliot, what do you like about this lovely water?
Yeah, for me, Casey, really it comes down to the smoothness. You know, you go to other brands. Let's compare one of these brands to Spectrum, right? Because they're inferior. No free ads, but if you were to compare Spectrum to a water, it would be like anything other than Pawnee. I think about Spectrum service, and I think of bad things, like bad water. Pawnee is great. Pawnee water brings us all together. It's a community. When you're a part of the Pawnee community, we're all together. We're all drinking the same liquid. We're all in a great mood. That's what Pawnee water is to me. It goes down the gullet easy. It's nice and smooth. That's what we're doing here. Pawnee water. Also, shout out to I got it on the hat here. Let me see if I can. Oh, that's that way. Betfred. Betfred Sportsbook, perhaps the greatest sportsbook known to man. Betfred Sportsbook, perhaps the greatest sportsbook known to man. I lost my ass responsibly yesterday on Betfred. But that's okay. We'll get them back tomorrow. Casey, back to you.
Thanks, Elliot. Chip, what do you like about Pawnee water?
Well, you know, my good friend had always told me that it's the natural limestone filtration that really does it, you know. All those other brands, they use artificial filtration. Some are suggesting in the chat they use their kidneys. Why use your kidneys when you don't need to? Why use your kidneys when you don't need to? You might as well use your kidneys to filter other things that you may consume. Certainly don't want to have to use your kidneys for water. Because if you get the best tasting water in the world, well, this might not be true, but you don't need your kidneys. All right. I'm glad we got through that. About as painless as one could possibly imagine. Tom's probably watching this show now, loving the idea of sitting back in this chair come Monday. Hopefully he's ready for some of the shenanigans that are going to go on. Because at one time, Casey did say on this very show, well, I think people kind of like us because, you know, we're not professional. You know, none of us are
We're a bunch of ex-professionals.
And he looked at Tom and said, if you didn't see it, one of the all-time clips of Chatterbox sports history, he looks at Tom and goes, oh, well, you were an ex-professional. I've never seen a room completely shift on a dime like that. So we're looking forward to having Tom back. Again, as a reminder, he will be here Monday. The plan, to be clear, is to have, obviously, Casey still in the captain seat over there. I'm going to join him to his, what would be your right, Casey?
Yep.
The left on the screen. You still have Reed. You still have Elliot. Spur will obviously fill in from time to time when one of us are in a situation where we have to go do other business, as they say. But to be clear, for those that are asking, yes, the goal is to certainly elevate the show. You got more manpower working on a show. More times than not, it's probably going to be a little bit better. Definitely when Tom sits back in the seat, I can certainly tell you it will rise. Now, for those that are worried and think that, you know, for whatever reason, I don't know why you would feel this way, and I'm not just saying that, but I'm being completely honest. If you think that this is the type of show that you'd rather watch anyways, the good news is we're going to bring back Boxed Lunch. And Boxed Lunch, might I add, will be a part of the Leader of Men, and maybe we'll even sneak peek it for the Nutcutter Nation. Speaking of Nutcutter Nations, before we lost internet, I do want to give a shout-out to our main man, Alex. I'm going to butcher his last name, but Ketter. If you say it really fast and confident, you can get away with it. That's what they always tell you. Welcome to Nutcutter Nation. Drew Garrison said, put this towards the internet bill. We need it. Because I think that might have been... I'm not going to suggest that was the problem, 100%, but it wouldn't surprise me if it wasn't. You know, that's how this company goes sometimes. It may have just been forgotten about, but my guess is that it seems awfully... coincidental that it just came back 10 minutes later. So I doubt it was the internet bill, but I'm going to give Spectrum, no free ads, a little bit of an out. You're not going to do that, Elliot.
No, because I've been having this issue with my personal computer on this internet provider for quite some time now. Everett's asking why don't I get rid of it? Because I want to watch sports in real time. I don't like delays, Everett. So I'd like to use cable. I don't want to use DirecTV. They stink too. Really, every cable provider stinks. But the issue is I have to keep them because I watch sports. I'm not going to go to YouTube TV with a 2-minute delay and deal with Trace or somebody texting me about the Reds scoring runs in the 9th inning when I didn't already know that because it hasn't happened yet. So that's why I keep it. Again, is it my fault? Probably. But when they sent over those 2 Russians, I didn't know what was going to happen to me. I was very concerned. But that's okay. We're going to deal with it like we've dealt with everything Spectrum. I've come in here with no internet service every single day for the past 3 months. I think I've been working here for 3 months or so. 4 months maybe? 3 months. I think it's 3 months. I've had no internet every day to start the day. And then it usually comes like 15 minutes into me sitting down. So no free ads. Spectrum, you suck.
Fair enough. I also just realized in the chat, thanks to Craig, for those that are wondering if there's an earthquake on the other side of the wall where the camera is. No, it's just me shaking my leg. In fact, I was eating dinner last night. I got looked at by my wife asking me what the hell I was doing because I was shaking the cabinets. I don't know why I do this. I have no idea why I do this. But if my foot rests on what basically is like a bar stool, it just does that. I'm sure there's a reason for it. It's not a nervous twitch. I'm not nervous anymore by doing this show. By all means, we've lost the whatever professionalism and track we were going down today on this show. So it certainly is not that. I don't know. Maybe I can go talk to a doctor and they can tell me why I have that problem. I don't know. We'll find out together. But where were we at before we left?
I don't think there's a way to get back to it. I made a couple great points about the Bengals. I'm not going to repeat.
You were making great points.
I made so many good points. Like I thought in my brain, like, Elliot, you might get a pay raise after this because that's how good I was speaking facts about the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm not going to reiterate my points. If you missed it, that's on Spectrum. Please call them and tell them what bums they are. Right now, I'm going to transition it. Last night there was a football game. It was a disgusting game. The New York Giants are the worst team in the sport. They're the worst team in the sport. They've been sacked. They were sacked yesterday 11 times. They lost 24-3. They were sacked 11 times. Daniel Jones, again, I don't blame it all on Daniel Jones, but the offensive line for the Giants has been disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. I'd actually like to see the Bengals play the Giants every week from this week going forward. Every single week. Whoever scores a touchdown first wins. Because these two offenses can't score at all. They can't move the football. So that was a tough one to watch yesterday. I had DK Metcalf, 40 yards in a parlay. Lost. Didn't hit. Is that part of my resentment for the Giants in that game last night? Yeah. They wouldn't allow DK to catch a ball. But that's okay. Another day going forward. The Seahawks look legit. I'm not going to lie. Drew Lock had to come in there after a little bit because of Geno's injury. But Geno came back. Drew Lock looks serviceable. That's, again, why you have it. That's why you have a decent quarterback. You can just game manage the way to a win. So shout out to Drew Lock. Seahawks, they look legit. By the way, 11 sacks against Daniel Jones in a poor offensive line. How many sacks do you think they'll have against Joe Burrow, and Joe Burrow can't move?
Let's not worry about that yet. You, Craig, everybody in the chat, let's focus on what's in front of us, right? The win mentality, which is what's important now. It's the Cardinals. Let's focus on Sunday. You're 4.5-point favorites. That's a big deal. I'm not going to get into that again. But here's the thing. Really quickly, this is where we left off before the internet obviously bounced out. Elliot was making some great points, and I was just, what's funny is I just sat here and let him take it. I just let him go. I was watching the buffering wheel spin right there on the old YouTube, and I was thinking to myself, we've lost internet, and I look over, and Elliot's just in the middle of a dead set rant, and I just let him go. Not sure if that's the wisest move to make or not, but I think that's what you do. Just let him go. So, Elliot, I don't know if you're going to be able to...
It was like a 5-minute rant.
I don't know if you're going to be able to re-emulate that at all.
I don't even know what I was talking about.
But here's where I'm at with Zac Taylor. The coach speak, in my opinion, is one thing, but I think you get more respect, and I don't know why more coaches don't do this, when they just pretty much tell the truth. And if you tell the truth, I don't think it really leads any other team on to believe or see something that they're not going to already see on film. If Zac Taylor came out and said, Joe Burrow's limited right now. We're trying to find ways in which we can work with the limited playbook that we're given, and we're not doing a good job of that right now. We're either going to find a way to do a good job with it this upcoming week, and we're going to keep adjusting, and that's on me as a head coach. If he said that, How much more respect would he have? Now, maybe he doesn't care about the respect outside the locker room and outside the halls that are Paycor Stadium, but it just is nice to have a breath of fresh air from sometimes having a coach and having an organization that at least calls it how it is. At least tells the fan base, this is what we believe. Dan Campbell, for as much as many people might think that, what he does is a shtick or they don't like him, this, that, and the next, but at least, if anything, at least you know what you're getting. Zac Taylor, in my opinion, again, am I trying to crucify the guy because he wanted to just do some coach speak and just blow off a question that was more than valid? That's a weird question. What's so weird about it? How could it possibly be weird that someone's asking about the health of Joe Burrow and whether or not they're going to continue to play him when they rank dead last in the league in offense? Joe Burrow is without question the fifth or basically bottom 5 QBs in the NFL right now. It's a fair question. I don't know why Zach shouldn't have just said, yeah, we're in a spot right now where we're in a unique situation, and we're going to have to find ourselves out of it. Nobody in this locker room is feeling sorry for ourselves. We know we're not playing well. I don't think that's not a shocker to anybody in here. And if anybody has an answer as to what exactly they think that we could do, we spend about 100 hours a week in here trying to figure it out. If they think they have a suggestion, by all means, put it in the suggestion box. That's how I would handle it. Make a mockery of the people that are trying to suggest that you don't know what you're doing. I don't know. We've been to 2 AFC championships back to back with these two with these kind of guys. We've found success in the past. We're dealt a hand right now that we've not played all that well. And by God, we're not happy about it. And you shouldn't be either. I don't know why that's so hard for guys to do. And you know what? I mean, listen, is it lip service? Is it being a politician by doing what I'm suggesting? No, but how do you not answer that question better? Which, again, does it matter at the end of the day how Zac Taylor handles the press or doesn't handle the press? Maybe not. But I would venture to say that it matters a little bit. For those that think that fans don't matter at all, it's the lifeblood of the sport. Am I overselling what fans mean? Because do I think that you should bow down to fans and how they act and start to change things because the fan base wants a certain way? Of course not. That'd be crazy. But I also think it's an opportunity when you speak to the press to be able to try to portray the truth to your most loyalist followers. The people that are watching those press conferences are the reason that you make millions and millions and millions of dollars. I think the least that you could be is just honest. I would be. And there's a lot of guys around this league that are honest, and they have success. Do you really think, I'll ask the question to you guys, do you really think if Zac Taylor came out and said Joe Burrow's not healthy right now, and we're trying to find every which way we can to figure out a limited playbook to make all this make sense, do you think the Cardinals, do you think for a second that matters? Honestly.
No, and it's been an issue of mine with coach speak for a long time. I've watched. And again, I'm a David Bell guy. I know a lot of people are not David Bell guys. But David Bell answers pretty much every press conference in the same way. He goes about it the same way. If they lose, he goes, well, you just got to be better. We just got to play better. And if it's a win, it's like they played great. Usually he says they played great even if they lost. Zac Taylor kind of does the same thing where he kind of just doesn't answer with honesty. He answers in coach speak. So I would like Zac Taylor to answer with honesty. I don't think it hurts anybody to be open and honest about what's happening. Marvin Lewis used to get on people's asses. You go around the league. Mike Tomlin in a interview or in a press conference after the Texans lost, after they lost 30-6, he basically said, "Hell yeah, we're going to make changes. This is unacceptable." A little bit of that from Zach would be good, especially when everybody's questioning you as a head coach. And again, one of my points that I made before I was rudely interrupted by Spectrum, no free ads, the worst internet service provider of all time. One of the points I was making is that Zach right now has been criticized for pretty much the same thing every single year. Not a lot of coaches are criticized like that. David Bell, in a way, was criticized because The way he puts in bullpen guys, when he takes out guys, starters too early, blah, 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 blah. Zac Taylor, it's literally the play calling. Zac, everybody knows you're not a good play caller, and everybody criticizes it year in, year out. But you have this long leash because you've taken us to a Super Bowl, back-to-back AFC championship games. At some point, you'd try to win favor with the fans at this point if you're not going to be a good play caller. I know he's tried to do that with the playoff balls thing. He goes to bars and hands them out. I think Zac Taylor's a good dude. It's nothing like that. He's a culture guy first. The Bengals culture has improved dramatically, and largely because of Zac Taylor and the people he's brought into this building. But at the end of the day, we have a serious issue at our hands. We're a Super Bowl frontrunner, and we don't look like we can play the sport. The Bengals look uncompetitive. They're not scoring touchdowns. We've scored 3 touchdowns in 4 games. Again, I've made that point. I didn't know if people got it or not because of Spectrum. No free ads, but they suck. So when Zac Taylor's at the press conference, when he's at the podium, I'd like a little bit of honesty there. I'd like Zac Taylor to be frank with us and be like, you know what, Joe Burrow is hurt. But our options are Jake Browning and Joe Burrow. We're going to ride with the guy that we're paying $219 million, and we're going to see if he can play through it. I'm going to trust his decision. I'm going to trust my quarterback. At least be honest in that way. If you're going to stick with it, do it like that. But don't sit up there and act shocked that we're all questioning your decisions when what you've laid out for us for 4 weeks has not worked. Because it hasn't, Zach. It hasn't worked, man. You got to be honest. You got to take a look in the mirror. Somebody somewhere in the front office or coaching staff has to step up and say, Joe Burrow is a problem right now. He needs to either get healthy or we need to lay out a game plan that he can work from. Neither of those things is happening. It seems like they're just laughing off all those questions, and in Joe Burrow we trust.
Casey, Callahan's a guy that's part of that offensive system, right? And then you also have Zac Taylor who calls the plays. And listen, there's people that are certainly of the belief system, and not only in our chat, but Drew's been a guy that's been on our chat for quite some time. He had a take yesterday that I watched that basically laid out the fact that Zac Taylor has been a culture guy. He's a good leader. He's basically, for all intents and purposes, a great head coach. He just is not a good enough offensive coordinator to continue to get the ability to call plays. And people are asking, and I don't want to say screaming, but people are asking the question, should he give that responsibility up to someone else? Callahan is at least, again, this is where I probably should be more studied in regards to the Bengals and how they're structured, but Callahan's a guy is he not that guy? And I guess who does this ultimately fall on? I know the head coach is the ultimate end-all be-all, but these struggles fall on who mostly to you?
It's a mixture. I think, honestly, I would say it's between Zach and Brian Callahan together. I mean, those two guys are supposed to be offensive-minded coaches that just have not really been up to – and Natty Ron's words, snuff. They've not been up to snuff at all. They rely too much on their guys being 100% and being able to just dominate. Like I said, and you've said it too, the back shoulder throws, all that stuff. That to me, just it has to not be the main focal point of this offense anymore. So, yes, Zac Taylor, who calls the plays, I'm upset with the play calling, but I'm also upset with the play design, and I think that falls on both of those guys' shoulders. You gotta put these guys in more favorable positions. You gotta figure out ways to make opportunities for these guys in space, specifically Jamar Chase. I thought the Rams' game plan was really good, and it focused a lot on Jamar Chase's skill sets, getting some looks in the middle, some crossing routes, play action, that rollout for Joe Burrow to hit Jamar deep, that just wasn't there this week. And part of it has to do with the offensive line playing poorly, but there was no effort there either to get those looks either. So, you know.
Ricky Logan says in the chat, fewest yards per attempt in any season since 1950.
Yeah, it's just unacceptable.
And here's the thing, too. When you have this offense, and Trace has been saying it, if you can't scheme up an offensive game plan where you score more than 3 points in an NFL game with a backup quarterback, I agree. And if you have a 0% Joe Burrow, right now we're at about a 50% Joe Burrow, it looks like. If we're at a 0% Joe Burrow, it still seems to me like you should be able to score more than 3 points. Utilize the guys you have. Joe Mixon's been playing great, and I know Reed likes to sit up here and say that the Bengals offense is run around Joe Burrow, not Joe Mixon. It's not working with Joe Burrow, and that's the point. That's the issue here, and they're refusing to change it, even though it's Joe Burrow's offense. Joe Burrow hasn't looked like himself. He's not himself. At some point, the Bengals need to make an adjustment. It has to happen this week. Because if Joe Burrow is going to throw 20 for 30, have 150 yards, no touchdowns, and a fumble again, we're not winning the game. You're not beating the Arizona Cardinals. You're not beating anybody in the NFL with the way the Bengals have been playing. They sneaked one out against the Rams because of turnovers, but that's it. I mean, that's it. The Bengals defense is getting torched. They allowed several 7-minute-plus drives to the Tennessee Titans, not even allowing your offense to have a chance. So Zac Taylor needs to get it together here. We have this week for the rest of our lives. This Sunday against the Arizona Cardinals is the game for our lives. If you go 1-4 to one of the worst teams in the NFL, you will not make the postseason. And it's not because of, there's not enough time. It's because your team isn't good. That's why. If you can't show up, if you can't score more than 20 points against the Arizona Cardinals, we're going to have problems. Big problems.
We'll do a chat poll question of the day that I'm hopefully I can eloquently say this in the way in which my brain is thinking it, but the words obviously that come out of my mouth have to also replicate what my brain's thinking, which oftentimes doesn't always translate. Would you rather have this Sunday Joe Burrow look like his old self and win, or Zac Taylor schematically dissect and absolutely outcoach the opponent and win? Because you could argue that both are a great sign for what's to come. You can make the case that maybe Joe Burrow's back to 100% health. It doesn't matter if Zac Taylor isn't able to schematically find ways in which you get to get guys open. Because Joe Burrow's already proven that if he's healthy and everything else is flowing the way in which it has before, that he can win big-time football games and win a lot of football games for that matter. Or would you like to see something out of your head coach, more really not even your head coach, but more importantly, the offensive game plan and your play caller, to where you start to win largely because of the schematics, much less of the talent? It's the X's and O's reason instead of the Jimmies and Joes. And the Bengals for a very, very long time, as in the last 2 years certainly, have relied a lot on the Jimmies and Joes, and that is what Casey has been trying to illustrate for quite some time about this offense. So how we put that in a chat, I know you're limited on characters over there, Casey, but as a reminder, the chat poll question is simple. Would you rather Joe Burrow look like his old self and win without the schematics? Or would you rather see Zac Taylor and this offense dissect because of a game plan and win that way? We'll go around the room really quick, and before we get to our mailbag, also I know RM has been all over us. He wants you to just go up a little bit on Ellie. Let's make RM happy for the day. We'll do it. Well, you want to do it live, or do you just want to?
I mean, RM, what do you want?
Let's do it. Let's just do it together.
You want it like that, or you want it like this?
That looks great. I think that's fair. That looks good. All right. Which one would you prefer? And then we'll get to the mailbag.
I think Joe Burrow's okay. So he's just dealing with an injury. We know what Joe Burrow can be. I'm more concerned with Zac Taylor, so I would like Zac Taylor to execute a game plan that works and that dominates the Arizona Cardinals. That is what I would like to see this Sunday.
Okay. Casey?
I want to see Zac Taylor. I want to see him just absolutely dissect a team. Now, I would prefer it be a good team. I mean, the Cardinals, I don't know what to make of the Cardinals. I still would like to see Zac Taylor create a game plan that didn't rely on Joe Burrow to win a ball game.
Fair enough. I think that we'll get to Chad's super chat in just a second. I think if I were a Bengal fan, I would much prefer Zac Taylor to to schematically out-scheme somebody, because I think it could tell – it could be the next step in the evolution of what can be the Cincinnati Bengals offense, because so far, I think we can all trust the fact that if Joe Burrow comes back healthy, and eventually he will, that he can be his old self. Now, I did suggest yesterday that's never a guarantee, and I mean that. It's not a guarantee. It's not a guarantee. But if you had to tell me which of the two I would much rather see, it would be Zac Taylor, because I'm not sure if we've seen that quite yet. Chad, he says in his super chat, I'm pulling it up now, what's our record if we had Kyle Shanahan? There's your answer. It's coaching. I mean, listen, you're using the cream of the crop analogy. I get what you're doing here, and you're not wrong. You're not wrong. But again, when you're starting to compare head coaches to what I think is maybe the best head coach, it's hard. That's a tough ask, right? That's like saying, what if the Reds had prime Justin Verlander instead of whoever it may be, Ben Lively? Well, of course. What's fair to expect, though, is the question I would have. And I think that it is fair to expect a little bit of a better output than being last in the league with the talent that you have, whether Joe's hurt or not. And if we can be a little bit fair, not overly fair, because I think people will don't take this the wrong way. The Bengals have played some tough defenses, guys. They have. Now I know you're going to say the Browns scored 28 points against the Titans. I know you're going to say the Colts just went out there and scored X amount of points against the Rams. The Ravens have given up points. So maybe that's a bad point. I don't know. I'm just trying to offer a little bit of hope, because I think the thing can get back on track. It's just going to require some outside the box thinking, and it I don't want to say it falls solely on Zac Taylor, but man, it feels like a lot of this falls at his feet. And at some point, Joe Burrow, if we're going to be honest as well, is going to have to start getting some of the criticism as well if he can't start playing a little bit better. All right. We have a mailbag question of the day. All right. I love that. Let's run the intro now, and we'll hear what some Johnny or Missy or somebody in some Frankenstein's class has to say.
We just got a letter. We just got a letter. We just got a letter. I wonder who it's from.
Well, hey there, guys. We had a mailbag today. It's a good one. Today's mailbag comes from Little Ellen in Mrs. DeGeneres' class. Little Ellen would like to ask, of the 89 teams that have started 1-3 since 2002, 11 teams have actually made it, or about 12%. The Bengals don't have a tight end. T. Higgins is hurt. The defense allows 175 rushing yards a game. Joe Burrow is hobbled, and our punter is horrible. Is our playoff chances 12% or less? Thank you, Ellen, for Mrs. DeGeneres' class.
Oh, man.
So I'm going to repeat the stat from Little Ellen.
Go ahead.
There were 89 teams that have started 1-3 since 2002. 11 of them have made the postseason. That's a 12% chance to make the playoffs from this stat. Do you think it's 12% or less? Thank you, Little Ellen.
I think that when these stats get brought up, there's a reason most teams start 1-3. The reason that most teams start 1-3 is because they're just not a good football team. The Bears, the Broncos, among others. When you watch those teams, you know they're just not a good team. So more times than not, certainly the team that starts 1-3 is not going to make the postseason because they have no chance in general. However, the one saving grace, if we can use that term, that I would argue is that the Bengals roster and the Bengals are better than what their record suggests. Now, let me be clear. The first 4 weeks, they've deserved that 1-3 record. This isn't bad luck. This isn't some bad call here,
Correct.
Bad call there. They have been bad. The only difference that I would say between a lot of those teams that are on that list that haven't made the postseason and the Bengals is they've not had a Joe Burrow, they've not had a Jamar Chase, and they've not had a defense for all intents and purposes that has been good with most of the same guys. Now, I think at some point if this defense continues to struggle, I don't know if it's a regression from guys on the defensive line. I don't know if maybe the linebackers, for whatever reason, and again, I have not looked at PFF grades. I don't know what and Casey would probably be much more knowledgeable about all this than I would. I don't know if there's been guys that have played better in years past than they are this year that are still on the team. What I mean by that is DJ Reader might have been basically an all-pro type tackle on the defensive line, and then now this year he's just not that same guy. That is possible. Obviously, the name on the back of the uniform stays the same, but the play does not. That is possible. But for the most part, this team lost two guys on the back end that we have said, and people have said, and rightfully so, that maybe the safety positions are of, I don't want to say they're of no importance. Of course they're not. But of all the positions, they are probably of the lesser importance when it comes to defensive production. Now, you might also add, if you look at Jesse Bates this season, I don't want to say he's basically Troy Polamalu, but, he's pretty damn good. He's been pretty damn good. So let's not just act like there were nobodies that left. But my point to the question is simple. I think the Bengals are better than their 1-3 record. The question is can they find a way to get back on track? And that is going to be answered very shortly. It's going to be answered this coming Sunday, and it's certainly going to be answered the following Sunday. And then you got a chance to rest, recuperate. What's your record look like when you go into the bye? And by all means, if it's not fixed by the bye week, and forget about it. We all know that. But if there's a silver lining in this season, if I can provide a little bit of hope, if I can provide just a little bit of a glitz and glamour for what has been a terrible start for the Bengals, is this. It's a blessing that they have the people, and I say people, but the teams, I should say. It's a blessing they have the teams on their schedule that they have at this time. Because, yes, those teams look daunting at the end of the season, right? That stretch after the bye, you got tough opponent after tough opponent after tough opponent. But this was the same thing that was said last year about this same franchise. Remember? Oh, look at how tough the back half of their schedule is. And they did nothing but win, 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 and win. Now, can you replicate that? Who knows? But there's also the chance of injury for those teams that look really, really good right now. And I'm not suggesting that you root for injuries, but if Christian McCaffrey and let's just say, for instance, a couple of those linebackers from the 49ers get hurt, or Brock Purdy, for heaven forbid, he goes down, and now you're quarterbackless, those things can happen. And although the optics of what you have on the back end right now look very daunting, it can change. But the teams you have right in front of you right now, I'm not saying they're easy games, because there is no easy games in the NFL. But they certainly are more apt to allow you to get back on track versus having to play teams that are really, really, really good. Do you really want to play the 49ers this week? Do you really want to have to play even the Seahawks this week? Do you want to have to play the Chiefs this week? Now, Steelers maybe, because they don't look all that great. Maybe you'd like to play the Browns this week because they have an injury, and that's my point. We're not wishing injury, and I'm not suggesting that I'm wishing injury on any teams. But what do the Chiefs look like if Patrick Mahomes has something happen and he's not able to play the same week that they play the Bengals? It is a little bit of a blessing that they have the Cardinals this week. And that's why I said there's some silver lining to the fact that you're 4.5-point favorites. I'm just saying.
That's still nonsense. But the point is, you look at last year's team, right? And even though they didn't look great the first 4 weeks, they looked competitive. The Bengals we all knew and loved were there. They just weren't winning games. They weren't executing. This year, there's nothing there. This isn't the team that we've come to know. This is not the same team. If we were scoring 25 points a game and the defense was giving up a lot of yards, a lot of points, and we were 0-4 right now, I'd say, you know what? All right, we know our issue. Let's fix it. The defense has been bad. We got to fix it. We got to do something to help our defense right now because the offense is doing their job. Nobody's doing their job. The defense is bad. The offense is bad. The special teams unit is bad. That's my concern. So that's why I don't think that the Bengals are in for a fruitful season this year, because at no point this season have they looked complete. They've looked incomplete every single game. And again, we snuck one away from the Rams. We stole that game from them. And I know Reed likes to sit up here and say that if you win a game in the NFL, that's all that matters. It doesn't matter how you look. It matters how you look a little bit. It matters how we're looking right now when we've scored 3 points in 2 games. We've scored 3 offensive touchdowns in 4 games. I don't think the Bengals are in for a fruitful season if this is going to continue. This is going to be a disaster season if Zac Taylor and the coaching staff keep running the same plays, keep operating this offense like we have a healthy Joe Burrow. We don't. We do not have a healthy Joe Burrow. You have to start changing it, and you have to start changing the way this team looks right now. Has to start now. I'm hoping they can turn it around, and by all means, it's early in the season. But I would rather be 0-4 and our offense look competent than 1-3 and whatever the hell is happening with our team right now. Because if we're 0-4 and the offense is clicking and we just need our defense to figure it out a little bit, I can look at this season and go, you know what? We're gonna score as many points as the Chiefs. It's just up to our defense. Right now, when we play the Chiefs later on this year, I'm looking at that right now and I'm saying we're not going to outscore them. We're not going to stop them. We're going to do nothing right in that game, and we're going to get blown out by 30. That's where the issue is. That's where the difference is. It doesn't look competitive. They don't look like they're comfortable out there. No one looks good. It's not the same team. It's not the same issue as last year where it's like they went on a miracle run. The Bengals were still there last year. They have not entered the 2023 season yet. That's my issue.
Casey?
Without just repeating the same points that Elliot just very, very well illustrated, I'm going to just kind of give a look into the Cardinals and why I think this game might be a little different. The games that we've lost because the teams have very good pass rush. Whether we'd like to admit it or not, the one best spot on the Titans roster at the current moment is their pass rush. Harold Landry and Jeffrey Simmons, they just torch the Bengals. And they have a really good blitzing schematic game plan that allowed them to take advantage of our offensive line. Same thing with the Ravens. They sent a lot of zero-look blitzes. Joe Burrow can't move. What I'll say is, in order for the team to win against the Cardinals, they have to be able to protect Joe Burrow, and Joe Burrow's got to be able to get the ball out on overloaded blitzes. I think that's the biggest problem at the current moment, is that when it comes to the blitz, Joe Burrow is the bottom of the league right now. The very bottom, which is not like him at all. So in order for this team to turn it around, that's the number one priority for me. What do you do when you get the zero looks, the overloaded blitzes? How does Joe Burrow look then? Can he get the ball out in time? Do they have routes game planned in there for him to get the ball out? And then do they have a game plan where they can run the ball effectively, pull guys, have some sort of power run game to give some relief to Joe Burrow? That's what they have to do in order to win this ball game. And I'm just looking at Arizona. They don't have guys. They don't have like a dude on the defense. It's just a bunch of guys. They should be able to get some movement up front. They should be able to protect a 4-man pass rush. And if they can't do that, then we're just in for a long season. So that is what I would be looking at as my keys to this game. Can they protect Joe Burrow against the pass rush, a 4-man pass rush, effectively enough for him to make the throws that they need? And when it comes to the overloaded blitzes, the zero-look blitzes, can Joe Burrow get it out in time? Can he find that open guy, dice teams up like he always used to? I think defensively, they're going to have their opportunities. I mean, the offense is putrid for the Cardinals as well. That offensive line is not good. And Trey Hendrickson should have a field day. Sam Hubbard, you got to have a better pass rush win rate than 5 Same with DJ Reader. You can't be a starting defensive lineman and expect to be making big money when you're only winning 5% of the time. That's horrendous. And same for the rest of the defensive line. I mean, they're not much better. So those are my keys to the game is can the defensive front and the offensive front do what they need to do to win the ball game?
Yeah, if you can't beat Josh Dobbs, I can't help you. I really can't. If you're unable to beat Josh Dobbs, if you're unable to get to Josh Dobbs and make him look like a scrub quarterback, which he is, you're going to have no success this season.
You know, the only thing that I keep thinking, obviously, this is a must-win, and it certainly feels that way.
It is.
And for all intents and purposes, it probably is. But the only thing that gives me apprehension for saying that is I don't know how good this conference is. I don't know how good the AFC North truly is. So if you're going to have the Ravens and certainly a quarterbackless Browns right now, I know how long that'll continue, I don't know. We'll find out. And certainly the Steelers, how many of these games are those folks going to win outside the division? And if the answer is not a lot, well, then you still have a chance to gain ground on them by head-to-head play, yes. And also, if, again, 9-7 wins this conference, then, and by conference I should say division, then at some point you can't continue to say the season's over no matter what this week. But it more or less comes down to, in another question that would really be oxymoronic and wouldn't make any sense, but it's almost like, how much do you value a win this week over how you look? Now, obviously, you'd want your cake and eat it too you'd want to look good and also win, but it's almost like if this offense went out and scored 40 points and there was a bunch of fluke plays that happened and somehow the Cardinals, scored 41. Now, this is the worst hypothetical in the history of sports maybe, but hopefully you can kind of understand where I'm going with this. It almost, to a certain extent, would you feel better if this offense looked like immaculate? And again, it would have to be a bunch of fluky plays because I know everyone's going to say, well, the defense gave up 41 to the Cardinals, so how are you going to feel good about that? I'm just trying to suggest that it's like, or would you rather win 6-3 and Joe Burrow still looks abysmal and the offense is trash? There's more ways, and again, that's where Reed's point, it has a lot of validity and truth. I just wonder if no matter what happens this week, if they lose, the season's over. I can't totally buy into that.
If the scenario plays out like you just said, and our offense looks competent, and Zac Taylor is able to slice and dice the Arizona Cardinals, and they somehow if they lose the game and they look great, I'll take that. Like I said it, if they were 0-4 right now opposed to 1-3, but they look decent in these games, I would rather have that than what we're seeing right now. 1-3 and not looking like a competent football team is disaster. I'd rather them lose this week and look good and just say, because then I'll buy into that crowd. I'll buy into it's so early in the season. Because it is. You'd be 1-4 if they lose, but if they show me life, then I can say, all right, they're 1-4. We have 12 football games left. Let's go to work. So I can get behind that. If Joe Burrow can show me something where he looks like a decent quarterback, he's running a little bit. I'm not saying he has to be Patrick Mahomes out there sprinting around the field. But move out of the pocket, man, just for a bit. If I'm able to see the Bengals offense look like the Bengals offense of old, I'll be okay, no matter what, with this result. Because as of right now, it looks like the season's over for me anyway. So a loss, a win, doesn't matter. I just want to see him look decent. I just want to see the team come back. 3 offensive touchdowns. 3.
We had a super chat from No, and he's wanting to ask a fantasy question, and unfortunately, I don't know if he's going to be able to ask it. He might have already left. Maybe the internet came out or went out. Who knows? But no, if you have a question that you'd like for us to answer, it's not going to be certainly me that you're going to want me to answer because I don't do a lot of fantasy football. I used to get into fantasy football. I used to like it an immense amount. And I got to be honest, it changed the way that I viewed and watched football so much that when the playoffs came around and I didn't have fantasy anymore and I was able just to watch the games for what they were, I kind of realized that I just needed to stop playing fantasy football because I just wanted to enjoy watching football again, the way that, it's just a game and you don't have to root for every little small detail and this, that, and the other. And again, I know there's many people that love fantasy football, and I'm not suggesting for a second that you shouldn't love it. It's just that I fell out of love with it very much for that same reason. And sometimes, if we're going to be honest, gambling, although there's no doubt that I've been a gambler for a long time, legal age, of course. Shout out Bedfred. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER, 21 plus in Ohio. But even that sometimes, if we're being honest, it takes away from just the joy of watching the games. Tonight, there's Major League Baseball. It starts here in a short few hours. Hopefully you get a chance to just sit back and relax and watch the games. I'm looking forward to just kind of, for lack of a better term, enjoying the game for what it is.
This is going to go against what you're going to say. Casey, can you get up? Can we go in the vault for just a second? Can we go in the vault for just a second?
Go in the vault?
Yeah, let's go in the vault. Can we go in the vault for a second?
Yeah, we'll go in the vault.
I just wanted to go in the vault. I know Trace was just been on the let's enjoy games for the purity, but I'd like to go in the vault. Let's win some money responsibly. I haven't been able to do that very much. So right now, we have 4 playoff games in the MLB. And to Trace's point, there is a point to being where it's like, I watch sports for the purity of the sport. I just like enjoying it. I like sitting back and just enjoying the show. There is a point to that. But for me personally, when I was young, fantasy football got me hooked on NFL football. I was not the biggest NFL guy in grade school. When I got to high school, I started playing fantasy football. I'm like, all right, the 4 o'clock games have implications on my season. It really got me hooked on it. So I think that's a different argument, a different side of Trace's point, but I do get his point. But for me, gambling and fantasy football have made me love these sports even more. It makes me watch soccer when I don't want to watch soccer. So that's just a different side. Tonight, you're going to take, responsibly of course, first inning unders in all of these games. Every single one of these games is going to be about minus 125, minus 130, depending on which one you look at. But take the first inning under. These are the aces. These are the best pitchers you're going to see. Take the first inning under, 0.5 runs. I love this bet. People are going to say it's a sucker bet, and it is. I think like 60% of the time it loses. But tonight, in the playoffs, no runs are going to be scored in these games. Take the under in the games, but most importantly, take the under in the first inning. 0.5. I'm the worst gambler you know, so take it responsibly. 1-800-GAMBLER. Betfred Sportsbook, perhaps the greatest sportsbook known to man.
You like that? You're going to go the Nerfy route for all the games.
Nerfy for every game. That's right.
No runs first inning for those that wonder what Nerfy means. But
no runs first inning. It starts at 3 o'clock today, so we're just going to start sweating them in the office. So that'll be fun. I think more playoffs should do that, by the way. Start games at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on a Tuesday.
Well, that sounds great for those that want to watch them on TV, but I am reminded very distinctly back in 2012 when the Cincinnati Reds played 3 postseason games at Great American Ballpark, and they got the shaft. This fan base got the absolute shaft. Had one night game, and then they proceeded to give the Reds 2 day games in the middle of a work week. I don't know. Maybe they can fly that out there on the West Coast, but most people here in the Midwest, they work for a living, usually during working hours, more times than not.
West Coast.
I don't really love it. I got to be honest. We got plenty of screens. We have plenty of television screens. Do you think for a second that Major League Baseball, people are like, oh, man, let me make sure that I can watch all 4 games today. I want to sit on my couch and watch Major League Baseball for 9 straight hours.
Yep.
They don't do that. There's like maybe a couple % of people that do that. We're talking small percentages of people. It is an absolute crime that you play 162 games to bust your ass to get into the postseason, and then you turn around and you tell a fan base, oh, by the way, who's playing today at 3 o'clock?
It's the Rangers-Rays.
The Rays. Well, no one cares about the Rays down there anyways, but if it wasn't for the Rays, you're asking a fan base on a Tuesday to be able to get off of work and go and watch, basically go attend the games at 3 o'clock. Make them all night games. If you want to separate them out by 30 minutes, so be it. If you want to start a game on the East Coast at 8:45, 9 o'clock, who gives a damn? Do that. But no, we got to make sure that all the television providers, the games don't overlap. That is so stupid, man. I'm telling you right now, Major League Baseball, and I mean this wholeheartedly, they need somebody to talk a lot of sense in their marketing. This is a regional sport, man. Yeah, do you want to convince yourself that it's a national sport because you want to make yourself feel better? Go ahead. Who do you think's watching the Rangers versus the Rays today at 3 o'clock? Not many people. Play the thing at night for the fans. If I have to go to one more Reds game when they busted their tail to get in the postseason, and you decide to put them on back-to-back days at 12:35 during the middle of a work week because you just want people to watch it on television, it's an absolute disgrace. People have multiple TVs now. Hell, be smart. At some point, maybe, just maybe, you can negotiate the idea or the opportunity to have a red zone type channel or a channel to where you can click the games and it's got all 4 of them up. But guess what? The truth is there's just nobody that really cares about all of them. So why don't you make them all at a time in which the people that actually do care can go to the games and watch? All right. I know. Toxic Trace. There he goes again.
One rebuttal.
Ranting.
There's nothing worse than the 9:38 p.m. tip-off for the national championship game on a Monday night. That's my only exception.
There's only one game.
Yeah, but at 9, it's too late. 9:38.
I understand, but that game could get played earlier because there's not another game going on at the same time in their mind. So they don't have an excuse to start that game at 9:38 is my point. So I'm with you. Those games shouldn't start that late. We're on the same page there.
They're on the same page.
But I'm just saying, like, start them all at a decent time. How about that?
Yeah.
I mean, is there really? I mean, seriously. And I'm sure someone will be like, well, here's the data. Here's the data. Well, there's what, 50,000 more people that are going to watch the Rays game today and the Rangers game today because they started at 3 o'clock and people can watch it on TV, and they'll watch that game because it's on TV, but they wouldn't have watched it at 7 o'clock because, I don't know, the Twins are playing. Who are the Twins playing? They're playing Blue Jays. All I'm saying is it's a disgrace to the fan base that tries to go to the games, Elliot. And that's all I'm saying. It is an absolute disgrace. Put it this way, if the Reds made the postseason and they had a game today at 3 o'clock down at Great American Ballpark, you know how wrong that is? You know how disgusting that is? Just because you want to get them all on television and they separate themselves out, who gives a shit? Give the fans a chance to go down there, tailgate, have fun. The NFL plays how many games at 1 o'clock on Sunday? Why don't they just make them all like staggered then? We'll start them at 11, and we'll start them at 2, we'll start them at 4, we'll start them at 6, we'll start them at 8. Why? Because the NFL realized that's just a nice, solid time to sit down and watch your television at 1 o'clock after church, after you get lunch, after you wake up from a Saturday bender. I don't know. Maybe one day Major League Baseball will find a way to market themselves a little bit better than they have been, and they won't start playoff games at 3 o'clock on a Tuesday. I don't know. All right. Thank you guys for listening to me rant and rave about something maybe you care about, maybe you don't. Maybe you disagree with me, maybe you don't. But outside the internet outage, I hope you enjoyed the show. As a reminder, at the top of the show, I just asked for something simple. Let's all just, take a step back, let things settle down, and make our judgment on things when we get all the facts. And maybe we should do the same for Zac Taylor. We'll find out if he can find a way this Sunday to right some wrongs. But we are here every single day, Monday through Friday, from 10
a.m.
to 12
p.m.
Which means that we'll be back here tomorrow. Hopefully better than ever. Thom Brennaman will join us. We'll get his thoughts. And we'll certainly interact with all of you. Thank you for making us a part of your day. We love you. See you tomorrow, everybody.